sure to have your photo ID ready when you check in. Once the poll worker finds you on the list of registered voters, they will flip over the tablet, asking you to confirm your information and sign the screen. You will then be handed a ballot card. Now, you're ready to vote. Take your ballot card to an available voting booth and insert it into the slot of the new touchscreen ballot marking device in the voting booth. Make your selections on the touchscreen. You can easily review your vote as you go and on the final screen of the ballot marking device. Make changes by touching the options labeled Next and Previous. The voting system is fully accessible. Any voter can use it. Each booth includes an audio ballot and keypad. It's designed for everyone. Once you've made your selections on the touchscreen, print your voting ballot card by tapping the Print Card option. Your printed ballot card will be returned to you from the same slot on the front of the ballot marking device. As a Travis County voter, you'll have a new job when you go to vote, verifying your selections on the ballot card. Step away from the voting booth with your ballot card and review your selections. If you want to change the selection you made, simply bring the ballot card back to the check-in table. A poll worker will spoil that ballot card and give you a new one to start over. Once you're satisfied with your selections, take your ballot card to the digital scanner at the ballot box. The display screen at the ballot box will provide instructions on how to insert your ballot into the scanner. Once inserted, the display screen will notify you that your ballot has been successfully cast. Finally, don't forget your I voted sticker.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
May the light of Christ shine upon and everybody. Hi, my name is Claudia Ingram, and we're going to do today a program that is totally different of what kind of programs I've been doing. We're going to have the Austin Conservative Forum, and we have a special guest today. Let me introduce you, our new friend.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Stilley. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jonathan. We are in the time of elections, so let's go to talk a little bit about what is the things that we're going to be voting in this time of the election. Let me introduce a little bit more about Jonathan. Jonathan, I would like that you talk us about how is that you get involved in the conservative movement.
Sure. So, I've always been pretty active and been aware of what goes on politically locally. But about a year and a half ago, I started realizing after talking to lots of my friends and people that I do business with, that really a place for conservatives to be heard or have conversations about, ballot items or things that are happening in the city, there wasn't really a good place for them to have those conversations without being attacked or debated constantly by more liberal ideologies. So I set up the Austin Conservatives Forum and the Northwest Austin Conservatives Forum. And now then we've grown to about 2,200 people. So we communicate regularly via social media. This is something to kind of educate each other on what these ballot propositions mean, what's coming up, voting locations, motivate people to get out to vote if they need help getting to places they can, if they need more information on items. And that's not just local, but it's local and state and national. And depending on the election cycle, you certainly see some more conversations, trending towards whatever's happening. But right now, all the conversation is about the local elections.
And Jonathan, what is a conservative view? What is a conservative view? Maybe for the people that can listen right now, that they can have an idea, what is a conservative?
Sure. So I would say that we kind of differentiate ourselves from a particular party. So not necessarily Republican or Libertarian. In my opinion, conservative views are ones that believe in fiscal responsibility, so not overspending, personal responsibility. So, you're responsible for yourself, that the government is not the answer to everything. And, government is necessary, but only in small doses. I believe it was Ronald Reagan that said that some of the most dangerous words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." So, we want to make sure that, that we keep government from overreaching where it doesn't need to be, not controlling every aspect of our lives. And like I said, one of the biggest things are, fiscal responsibilities as well. So we're not just throwing money at everything.
Oh, okay. And Jonathan, tell me a little bit more about yourself. Where are you from?
Sure. So I'm from West Texas originally. I've been here in Austin since the late 90s. I'm a real estate broker here in town. I deal with, all kinds of people's regular everyday lives, where they're living, where their kids are going to school, where they're shopping. I have been, like I said, active politically for some time, but not in any particular position, mostly just as a concerned citizen. So I don't hold any political offices. I've never held any political offices. I've just kind of become a neighborhood lead. Folks turn to me to answer questions about what's really going on politically, or where do I do this, or what are your opinions on these kind of things, or how does this work? And so I'm truly more of just kind of a citizen's advocate, just your average everyday Austin person's advocate, to help answer those questions and, give them my opinions on how I think things could work to make their lives a little bit better.
Thank you, Jonathan. For our brothers and sisters who are watching this program right now, any party is paying us. Nobody is sending us to do this. We are just citizens that want to inform you about that the votes are going to be in May 1st. So let's continue talking about a little bit about there is a lot of things in the ballots, and it's kind of confusing, all that things that you read over there, although I read it in Spanish and in English.
Right.
But there is a lot of things, and there are things that probably we don't understand. So let me put a picture about how the ballot look like, so maybe we can read and talk about each one of these topics. And then let's go to ask to people who is watching us if they having any questions. Just asking to us. You can send it to us, the text by, let me see, what is the flyer?
And as you're looking for the flyer, I would just
no, this is the other one. No, this is the other one.
Yeah,
this is the places that we go to vote.
Right. So I would say that the polls open on May the 1st, but early voting actually opened on Monday. And so I would really encourage people, as opposed to waiting for the last minute, we don't know what lines are going to be like. Those locations, which that flyer you'd put up, they're all over Austin. I have found that it's much easier to vote during the day. So if you've got a lunch break, or you can do something at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. When my wife and I went and voted, we went right in, no wait, no line. So vote early, just to make sure that it's in there, and you're not standing in line someplace at 7 o'clock at night trying to cast your ballot.
Yes, and there are going to be places to voting, so you need to check it out which one you're going to be available. Okay, let's go with the first one. Let me see if I can move it here. Let me find it. I'm just moving from one place to another, the mouse. Let me close the window, then I don't need it. Okay, I find it. So let's go with the first one.
So Proposition A.
Yeah, Proposition A. You don't mind reading it for us?
Sure.
So you can read it?
Absolutely. So Proposition A is, shall the city charter be amended to give the Austin Firefighters Association, Local 975 of the International Association of Firefighters, the authority to require the city to participate in binding arbitration of all issues in dispute with the association if the city and the association reach impasse in collective bargaining negotiations. So in a nutshell, the firefighters union wants to be able to take the city to binding arbitration if they can't come to an agreement, usually on contractual things and stuff like that. So what that really means is if the firefighters union wants certain things and the city doesn't agree to those things and they're at an impasse, then they could take that to a third party, and that third party would come to a decision, and that decision would be final and everybody would have to adhere to it. So as a conservative, and this is actually, I'll back up and say that this is probably one of the most confusing things that's out there, that people are like, well, I don't want to vote against firefighters, but I don't really know what this means and how this could affect me. So what I'll say is, first of all, from a conservative standpoint, this is being pushed by the union. And the Austin City firefighters are some of the highest paid in the state. So the city takes pretty good care of them. Now then, there was a couple of years where they were really fighting with the city about contracts. What I have to step back and look at it is, as a citizen, the city is responsible to us for good stewardship of our money. And it is possible that if they went to binding arbitration and some third party made a decision on how this contract should look, then there could be the situation where the city would be required to pay out a whole lot more money that's not necessarily budgeted, and that would be binding on us. Also, a lot of times these discussions for binding arbitration are private, which means that as a citizen, we don't really know what they're discussing, what they're asking for, what they're capitulating to. And I'm never a fan of privacy when it comes to contract negotiations that have to deal with our money. And the third thing is, and there is this possibility, and we've seen this in San Antonio, is that Austin does have bonds, and we could take a potential credit rating hit by having a binding arbitration out there because the city doesn't have control of its own dollars. So that could mean on big bonds that we could actually have to pay an additional $300,000 to $500,000 worth of interest. So I'm all in favor of the firefighters, and some of my dear friends are firefighters. But again, this is being pushed by a public union, not necessarily individual firefighters. And so as a conservative, knowing that I can't know exactly what they're negotiating on and that we have the potential to have to pay more money down the road, I'm against Proposition A.
Okay, let's go to the next one. This is confusing because they didn't put A that's following by B. They just skipped the B. So let's go to do the C. Right. Maybe there is something hiding in the C, in the B.
All right. Well, C is not too bad. This is about a charter being amended. I'll read it to us. Shall the city charter be amended to allow for a director of police oversight to be appointed or removed in a manner established by city council ordinance, with duties that include the responsibility to ensure transparency and accountability as it relates to policing. So the big question on this one is not, do we need a director of police oversight, right? The question is, should that person be appointed and be able to be removed by the city council? So right now, these positions are appointed and done by the city manager, which is a non-political position. So I'm never a fan of, if you have a city council that has a particular political tilt, whether it's left or right, you have the potential to have our police department, which serves all of us, being overseen by somebody that is appointed by political appointees, then they're going to be kind of beholding to that particular political ideology. So you could see that if there was a city council that was extremely liberal, appointing a very liberal type of police oversight that doesn't like what the police department is doing, then it could cause some real problems with our policing. And the opposite could happen as well. You could have a particularly conservative city council that thinks that we really need to crack down and be harder, and the police aren't being hard enough. And because of those political wins, we're dealing with something that, as the police department and justice, is set up as a, co-equal branch, right? Justice should be something that is completely non-political. So I don't like oversight being dictated and responsible to political parties. So I would vote against Proposition C as well. I did.
Okay, so let's go now with the next one.
Okay, Proposition D, shall the city charter be amended to transition the election for mayor from gubernatorial election years to presidential election years, providing that the mayor elected in 2022 will serve a 2-year term, and then mayoral elections will occur at the same date as the presidential elections, starting in 2024. So right now we vote for the mayor in off years. It's not the same year as a presidential election. And for a long time, it's been done like that on purpose, because it's when you get people showing up for presidential elections, it tends to be very party specific, and they're not as involved or concerned with the local issues that would pop up with the mayor. So they've kept them separate, and this is an attempt to put it to the presidential election cycle so that you have a lot more people showing up, voting, more or less straight party tickets, even though technically the mayor is a non-party position. So for me, I like people that are going to go vote to be very informed about what they're voting on, and to be aware of what particular candidates are standing for. And when you go to a presidential election, the ballot is forever long. I mean, it's pages and pages. You're voting on all kinds of things. And so having it in an off year allows people to really focus in on what they're voting on and not have to look at, 37 or 40 different things, school board trustees, bond issues, congressional seats, senatorial seats, state. It's a lot of stuff. So the mayor has such an impact on how we live our daily lives. I think that it should remain on the off years where it is. So I would have vote against this one, Proposition D, as well.
But you know, it's and a lot of people doesn't go to vote.
Right.
It's really true. A lot of people don't show up in these
right.
kind of elections, right?
That's right. And, you know, as a citizen, it really is your responsibility. I mean, we've set it up where there are so many polling locations. It's so fast to do it. You can do it early. You can do it, you know, digitally. It's so simple that, you know, there really is no reason for anybody that is a citizen to not go vote. Everybody should go vote. I mean, every single time, especially for local elections, because that's what really affects your daily life more than many other things.
Yes. So let's go to the Proposition E.
Okay. Shall the city charter be amended to provide the use of ranked choice voting in city elections if such voting is permitted by state law? So that's a big if in there. Right now, so ranked choice voting would be, right now, if you have an election and somebody doesn't get the majority, it goes to a special election. And what this would change it to would be ranked choice. So nobody got a majority. So the first person wins, the second person, you know, and it goes in that order. But right now, the problem with that, and I don't necessarily have an issue with that because I haven't seen all the details of it. But right now, that is against state law, which means that if we pass this to allow this to happen, we would have to then go and sue the state of Texas to overturn state law. And it's, again, that's a multi-million-dollar battle, a fight that we're picking, that I just don't think we should be spending that money on something like that when we have bigger issues like, you know, homeless things and budget deficits and, you know, roads and streets and all kinds of stuff. So I don't believe in spending millions of dollars to pass something that is already illegal. I think if you want to have that fight about ranked voting, then you should attack it at the right place, which is you need to change state law so that it's allowed in cities and municipalities or across the state. But, you know, right now it's illegal. So to me, that's a no vote.
Okay. So let's go to talk about the F.
F is a big one. So this is one of the most important ones that's out there, and this ties in closely to G. So Proposition F is for a strong mayor, and what it says is, shall the city charter be amended to change the form of city government from council manager to strong mayor council, which will eliminate the position of professional city manager and designate an elected mayor as the chief administrative and executive officer of the city with veto power over all legislation, which includes the budget, and with sole authority to hire and fire most department heads and direct staff, and with no articulated or stated charter authority to require the mayor to implement council decisions. So basically, this is going to make the mayor like a president. And he's going to be, if the city council could vote, all 10 people in the city council, or nine people, all 10 people in the city council to vote for something and the mayor to veto it. He would be in charge of hiring and firing all staff in the city, police chiefs, all those kind of things. So the easiest argument that I could have for you, and that's a very strong position. People say, well, you know, the city council could always override that veto with the vote. And there are two big reasons why I am vehemently opposed to this, and there's lots of pushback across the city from this. Number one, imagine the worst person that you can't stand as a politician, the very worst one, and now put him in as mayor. You may completely disagree with him, and you can have everybody on the council that you agree with, and he vetoes it. And now it has to go back through, and it's going to lengthen all kinds of the process. So that's one of the reasons that I'm against it. You know, the other one is that to have, you know, such a strong mayor like that, to be able to veto and hire and fire people really puts a political influence, you know, on all of those staff positions. And the other thing is this, and I'll ask anybody that's watching this, you know, you can call your city council person's office and usually get an email or a phone call back within the day or the next day. And I'll ask any of you, if you're not in politics all the time, when was the last time you got a call back from the mayor's office, right? And I mean, that's going to make a really powerful position that is going to be even less responsive to you as a citizen. So, you know, this is getting massive pushback, and so this is a strong no for me. I want to be able to talk to my city council person that's actually representing me in my district to go vote on things. And then, if I can, that'll roll right into Proposition G, which is, shall the city charter be amended to provide for an additional geographic council district, which will result in 11 council members elected from single member districts. This is less about having more council members, and this is a lot more about having to balance out the city council. Right now, the mayor is a voting member. So we have 10 council districts and the mayor. That's 11 votes, which means you never have a tie vote. But if they make the mayor, Proposition F passes, then the mayor is now not a voting member. So you have 10 council members. So you have to have one more council member so you don't end up with tie votes all the time. The problem with this is if Proposition F fails, and so we don't have a strong mayor, so now the mayor is still a voting member, and you add one more city council district, you're at 12 voting members for the city council, 11 plus the mayor. So you can end up with ties. And there are a lot of votes, especially amendments and things like that to ordinances that end up with a 1-vote margin. And so it's been set up forever intentionally to have an uneven number so we don't have ties. So if you vote against Proposition F, which you should also vote against Proposition G, because that will leave us with an unbalanced city council so we don't end up with ties.
Okay, that is not the thing that they call packing?
Say it one more time.
That is the thing that they call packing, or is different?
No, not really packing. I mean, it's more of a logistical thing that they want to try and do to balance it out. But again, if one fails, you could really end up with a problem. It's not really about, oh, let's add more city council people so that they can be more responsive. It's really just assuming F passes, you have to have G. But if F fails, you really shouldn't have G. And in my opinion, that should have been part of the same proposition. But I'm not in charge of the ballot.
Okay. So let's go with the next one.
You have Proposition H, shall the city charter be amended to adopt a public finance campaign program which requires the city clerk to provide up to 2 $25 vouchers to every single registered voter who may contribute them to the candidate for city office who meet the program requirements. So this is a city giveaway of your tax dollars. This would take every single registered voter. You'd get 2 vouchers or up to 2 vouchers for $25. And you could then take that $25 and go give it to the campaign person of your choice. Proponents of this are saying that it's a way to keep big money out of politics. It's really not. I mean, most of the contributions that you get right now are $25 or less. And I think that, again, if you talk about $25 times 2 times every registered voter in Travis County, that's a lot of money. And you have to start asking, where is that money going? How is it going to be accounted for? And, you could have situations where you have large groups motivating people, polling all those things together to kind of start swaying elections to give somebody a financial advantage in an election because they've gathered, $200,000 worth of campaign contributions because, people got, neighborhoods together or whatever in the world it is. So I don't think that tax dollars should be involved so much in public elections like that. I think there are better ways to do it. It's not in this proposition. But that could have to do with co-equal airtime for everybody, things like that. So I'm strongly against this because I just don't like taxpayer giveaways into politicians' pockets.
Yeah, from where they're going to take out this money?
That's the question, right? Where is that coming from?
Yes. Okay, so let's go with the B. I think this is the hidden one.
The Proposition B, right? So it's funny, on the paper ballot, they show it at the end. When I actually went and voted, it was actually in order. So that was nice to see. So I'm going to read this carefully, and then I'm going to kind of talk about a couple things on it. Shall an ordinance be adopted that would create a criminal offense and a penalty for sitting or lying down on a public sidewalk or sleeping outdoors and near the downtown area and the area around the University of Texas campus, and create a criminal offense and penalty for solicitation defined as requesting money or another thing of value at specific hours and locations, or for solicitation in a public area that is deemed aggressive in manner, create a criminal offense and penalty for camping in any public area not designated by the Parks and Recreation Department. So this is the big one that everybody's out really talking about, right? And this is the voting for or against a camping ban. So I'll start off by saying I'm very much in favor of Proposition B. And I'm going to talk about a couple of quick things that people are saying about it that are not true and not correct. So this is an informative thing to correct some misinformation. There's some very specific wording there about lying and sitting around downtown and UT. That's because that is a specific homeless problem that they have down there. It's not just tents. It is people sleeping on sidewalks in front of businesses, etc. When you get further out into the suburbs, you get into the 183 area, you get into the Ben White area, you don't have people sitting and lying as much as you do camping. So that's a specific ordinance that says, if you're downtown, you can't lie, you can't sleep, you can't do these things on the streets. And then the other parts of it, in Northwest Austin, Southwest Austin, South Austin, North Austin, the ordinance would prevent them from popping up tents and all those kind of things underneath overpasses. Again, any place that is not dedicated to actually for camping. So the other thing is, a lot of people say, if you vote for this, you're not being compassionate, you're against homeless people, and you're making being homeless illegal. And the answer to that is that is patently not true. Number one, being homeless is not illegal. The city of Austin tried this experiment 2 years ago to let people camp and sleep wherever they wanted to kind of throw it in everybody's faces. The reality is, being homeless is not illegal. Camping and underneath overpasses, using drugs, panhandling, being aggressive, stabbing somebody in Academy, those kinds of behaviors are illegal, just like speeding is illegal. And so by allowing the people to camp any place, it's really not compassionate to the homeless people, because they're not forced to get the treatment that they need. So, we all know and agree that, and according to ECHO, approximately 60% of the homeless population have mental illness. 60% have drug addiction problems. 40% have some type of mental problems. Then you have financial people that just fell into the cracks through no fault of their own. Could have been a medical issue or a family death. And there's no silver bullet for this thing, right? There's no one size fits all. But what we do know is that the only way to legally compel somebody to get help is through some type of ordinance, because the city can't say, listen, you have a drug addiction problem, you need to get help. So the only way to force them to get that help is to say the behavior that you're doing, which is using drugs, whatever in the world it is, this is illegal. We're going to give you a ticket. We're going to cite you for this. And the problem was, in the past, when the police cited somebody, they would get a warrant and they would throw these people into the justice system, into jail. And that's not the right the place for a person with mental problems, a person with drug addiction problems. They need to get the help that they need. They need to be triaged. And so this, in essence, would force the city to look at those programs and how do we want to spend those dollars. So there are a lot of private organizations that are out there, Mobile Loaves and Fishes, lots of places that have these smaller homes that are there to help people, but they will not help people that have mental issues and have drug addiction problems, because they're not set up for that. The same thing is with the city buying hotels all over the place. I think we've got 4 right now. I don't know how many more that are being looked at. Do you really want to have a hotel full of people with mental issues and drug addiction problems? Who's going to manage that? How are you going to deal with that? That's not the right place to house these people. And there needs to be a comprehensive plan for how we're going to deal with our homeless population in a passionate way. But, letting them live underneath a bridge at 183 in Oak Knoll, or on I-35, or down off of Ben White, where there's, all kinds of traffic, and they're freezing cold in the winter and burning up in the summer. And we just had another fire in a homeless camp, and there's an entire underground economy that has to do with bartering and, drugs and violence and sex and all kinds of things. And it's not a healthy situation for them. And so as a society, we have to say that, camping underneath overpasses, near schools, near my kid's ballpark, is not an acceptable thing for us as a society. My kid plays ball, and we have a homeless camp that is 50 yards from that. And we've been over there and done cleanups. And I sent you some of the pictures of the buckets of syringes and needles that they've left out there. And this is, 50 yards from where 800 kids play baseball on a regular basis. It's not safe. We just had a homeless man stab somebody inside Academy for whatever reason. And so banning this camping would not only make our regular citizens that are not experiencing homelessness, it would not only make them safer, but it would then force the city to really look at how are we going to deal and help with these homeless populations that are here. And so, if they need mental health, we need to look at how do we fund that and what are we going to do with those things. If they need drug addiction recovery issues, they have those problems. We need to deal with how are we going to help these people get over those addictions so we can transition them into productive members of our society. If they have financial problems and they're there through no fault of their own, then, we need to get them into those either private or public programs that help them. And if they decide that they just want to live on the streets and be homeless because that's their way of life, then our answer is, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable for us as a society. You have to be contributing to what we're doing. And, just living on the street is not an acceptable thing to do. So I hope that helps with, some of the items of Proposition B. If we leave it in place, what's going to happen is the homeless camps are going to continue expanding. We're going to continue to see increased crime, increased fire in those areas. Austin has been ranked right now as the #2 best place to go for homeless people because they know that they're going to get free housing, free health care, free meals without any restrictions for, what they need to be doing to help their situation. And so, we have a city right now that is one of the best in the country. People are moving here from all over the country. And, if we don't change this, we're going to end up being San Francisco and Seattle and Oregon, where people are leaving in droves. I mean, New York City still. I mean, people are leaving there because the folks don't want to have, homeless people camped out in front of their businesses that are, drunk, passed out in front of it, or they don't want their kids walking to school. Right now in Seattle, there are 2 homeless encampments that are adjacent and attached to elementary schools and middle schools. And the kids are walking over drug mules going to school. As a society, I don't think we find that acceptable. And so I'm a strong proponent of voting for this. But it has to be a 2-part thing. We also have to make sure that the city of Austin does its job. You can't just ban them and then say, well, go do what you want. They have to deal with the problem and start setting up the programs to help these homeless people.
Okay, thank you. I think we went through already all the election options. So when is going to be the elections?
So the election day is May the 1st, but like I said, we do have early voting that's already started. I believe you can go to votetravis.org, I believe is a website that you can plug in your address and it'll show you everything. And then you've got a list of where your locations are. It's very simple. You can also probably just Google, where do I vote in Travis County? The county has a fantastic website that shows where those polling locations are, when they're open, and when you can go there. And you don't have to go to just your precinct. You can go to any voting location and go do that. So find one close to your work, I would recommend, so you can do it during your lunch break or maybe right when you get off before it gets busy. I suspect from what I've heard that it's busier after hours because everybody gets done with work and goes and votes then.
Well, I want to appreciate your time for
Sure.
being in this program and inform to the people. In case that somebody would like to contact with you, how they can contact you?
Sure. So if you're on Nextdoor, there's a public group called Austin Conservatives Forum, and anybody that wants it can join there. I'm on there daily. You can direct message me through that. I'm the moderator of that group. There's about 1,100 people in that particular forum. They can contact me there anytime in the world that they like, and I will respond, immediately to those direct messages. That's probably the best way. You can always Google me and find out. I do have a real estate business, but I try and keep my politics and my real estate separate as much as I can.
Yeah, I understand you. Well, we want to thank you for being with us today, and the Lord continue blessing you and protecting you. And there is something else that you would like to tell to the people before we finish the program today?
Sure, I would. I would say that regardless of your political beliefs, left, right, or in the middle, become informed, get involved. Don't just listen to the news station that you like. Listen to the other side. Go read the ballot. There's lots of good resources that are out there. The Austin Bulldog, the Austin Monitor, that are, off mainstream kind of things that are very good about just reporting the straight news, no politics involved, and what these mean. It's a wealth of information that's out there. And the other thing I would say is go vote. It's important because you may think it doesn't impact you, but every single one of these items will impact you as a citizen here in Austin. And if we start making our voices heard now, this is the first step to making our voices heard with other things like property taxes, tax appraisals, city audits, how the city is going to spend our money, and how we kind of, rein in some of the wild spending that the city is doing right now. I will say that there is a proposition out there right now, not on this ballot, but they want to talk about expanding the convention center again. I mean, we're just now getting back from COVID. This is the wrong time to be talking about another $1 billion to go build something. So anyway, if I could say anything, I would say, first of all, thank you so much for giving me the time to kind of talk about this to the public. It's fantastic. I appreciate it so much. Again, Austin Conservatives Forum on Nextdoor, you can find it. We're also on MeWe, which is the other group, social media platform that's out there. And get educated and go vote. Just go vote. It's good for you. It's good for our city and it's good for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So God bless you. And brothers and sisters in Christ, remember, you have the obligation to be responsible. Go to vote. So God bless you.
Very
Bye.
good. Thank you so much.